Hi, my name is Troy Hubble from Your Dyslexia Expert. I'm wearing my Brandon Sanderson shirt today. Brandon Sanderson is a fantasy author. If you've never read him and you like fantasy, I strongly recommend checking out his books. But anyways, that's enough of me nerding out about that. I'm sure you're here to listen to me nerd out about how to help somebody you know with dyslexia. So with that said, we're going to talk a little bit about sounds today. We're going to look at some ways that we can classify sounds. And the reason that we're going to do that is because dyslexia is a phonological processing disability, which is a fancy way of saying people who have dyslexia have trouble hearing and articulating sometimes and classifying and distinguishing and manipulating the spoken sounds of the English language, the phonemes. So this is one way that we can look at classifying sounds. There's actually two other qualities which I didn't add to this video, but I'll go ahead and share what those are. Those are whether a sound stops or continues. A stop sound is a sound that we make, and then it stops. We can't continue it. A continuous sound is a sound that we make, and it can continue. We can continue to make it. So these four classifications, though, are a pretty easy way to talk about sounds. And anytime I introduce a new sound to one of my students, we actually briefly discuss where that sound would fall on this chart. I don't use the chart, but I do ask whether it's blocked or partially blocked or open, whether it's voiced or unvoiced. And I also do ask whether it stops or continues, but we'll get to that later. The reason that it's important to teach kids these ways to think about sounds is because if a student has trouble hearing and manipulating the sounds, just listening for the sounds and trying to distinguish between the sounds just based on listening may not be enough. When we teach kids the qualities that a sound can have, and we teach them to feel how that sound is articulated in their mouth, then they have a way of understanding sounds which begins to make much more sense in their brains and which lets them use cues other than just listening for differences in the sound. So if I want to spell the word pit and I want to spell the sound p, if I can feel these different qualities in the sound and I know to listen for these different qualities in the sound, it's going to be much easier for me to recognize that sound and to choose the right letter for the spelling. So up here we have consonants, consonants, consonants. Three of these boxes, this one, and this one, are all going to be consonants. The only letters that we call vowels are letters that are open and voiced. If you've ever wondered how you could define the word vowel, it's an open and voiced sound. So with that being said, this says blocked or partially blocked. Sounds that are blocked or partially blocked are sounds that we obstruct the air coming out of our mouth in some way to make. This says open. Sounds that are open are sounds where we don't interfere with the airflow at all. Okay? This says voiced. If you touch your throat and say ah, you'll notice that there's this distinct vibration. That's your vocal cords. Voiced sounds are sounds that we need to use our vocal cords to make. If you do the same thing, touch your throat and say you will not feel that vibration. That is unvoiced. Unvoiced sounds are sounds that we do not use our vocal cords to make. So we're going to look at some letters, and we're going to talk about the sounds that those letters represent. And we're going to place these letters in one of these quadrants according to these qualities. So let's start with the letter P. First, it's always helpful for kids to notice how they make that sound in their with their mouth. I actually often will have kids look at their screen because I teach remotely. When I teach in person, I'll have kids actually have a little mirror and look in their mirror and look at what their mouth does. So, there's actually a number of different programs that give a number of different names for the different kinds of sounds that we make. I don't want to infringe on any copyrights, so I'm going to steer clear of that, but just know that those are out there, such as Take Flight, which I use, and Lips, which is a Linnemood Bell program. I'll link both of those in the description of the video. But with that being said, go ahead and do this with me. Say, P. The first question we're going to ask about this sound is whether it's open or blocked. Well, P. At the end, my mouth is open. I have to release the sound. But at the beginning, I actually have to block the air from coming out of my mouth. That means that this is a partially blocked sound. We block it at the beginning and then release it. Now I'm going to test whether it's voiced or unvoiced. I'm going to touch my throat. Remember, if you forgot what voiced is, say ah, you'll feel that distinct vibration. P, P is an unvoiced sound. That's actually a reason why it's really important when we're teaching kids how to read that we're careful how we say the sounds. A lot of times, teachers will say P. P does not say P. We don't eat a pizza. We eat a pizza. It says P. So with that being said, P is partially blocked and it's unvoiced. So it's going to go in this quadrant down here. It's a blocked, unvoiced sound, or partially blocked in this case. Let's take a look at the sound that B makes. B says B. Again, if you're teaching this to students, have them notice what their mouth does when they make that sound, but B. I notice that just like with the P sound, and I actually make the reason I chose this letter is we make B in exactly the same way with our mouth. This is a partially blocked sound. I have to block the air to make it, but then release it, okay? But when I touch my throat, B, B, I do feel that vibration. So this is a blocked or partially blocked sound, but it is a voiced sound. Still a consonant because it's blocked or partially blocked. Okay, that's a way that I can hear the difference between these sounds. A really common error for kids who have dyslexia to make is they'll have trouble hearing the difference between these, but you can teach them to put their hand on their neck, P, B, and feel the difference between those sounds just fine. Here, we have the letter T, which represents the sound T, T. Again, I would have my students look in their mirror or look on their screen, depending on whether I'm in person or remote. And I notice that in order to make that sound, I do have to put my tongue up behind my teeth and stop the air. T. I do release it. It's partially blocked. And yes, there are some fully blocked sounds. But T is partially blocked. Now, so I know it's going to go on this side of my quadrant, the partially blocked side. Now I'm going to feel my throat. T, T. No vibration. I'm not using my vocal cords to make this sound. So T is partially blocked and it's unvoiced. And again, whenever I teach my kids the sound, I just ask them real quick, is it blocked or partially blocked? Touch your throat, is it voiced or unvoiced? Very quick. You can also ask them, does it stop or continue? That's the only way that I didn't include on this chart. Let's look at the letter D and the sound that it represents. D, D. Well, I'm still blocking the air in exactly the same way that I was with the T, but if I touch my throat, D, D, oop, there's that vibration. So this is going to be voiced but blocked sound. Okay? Again, D does not say duh. We don't play the duh-rums, we play the drums. It says D. So we want to teach kids to clip that sound as much as they can. Same thing, T does not say tuh. That would make it voiced. We don't eat at a table, we eat at a table. So it says T. We want to be careful how we teach those sounds to students. Okay. Now let's look at the letter A. A can actually represent 5 different sounds. We're just going to play with the short A sound today, which is ah, ah. Well, I don't feel myself stopping the air. Ah, ah. The air can just keep right on going. And if I touch my throat, ah, I can definitely feel that vibration. So this is an open sound that is also voiced. That is what makes it a vowel sound. Okay, and this last one we're going to do, just because I wanted one in each of these quadrants, H represents the sound. Be careful, it doesn't say huh. We don't wear a huh helmet, we wear a helmet. I notice that I'm not blocking the air. This is an unblocked sound. But if I touch my throat, there's no voice. This is an unvoiced sound. So H is open, but it's unvoiced. So it's still a consonant. You can classify all of the sounds in the English language this way. And one of the things that makes English so hard is we have 26 letters, we have 44 sounds. But if we can start to understand the different qualities that make each sound unique, and if we can start to understand how we make these sounds in our mouth and what they feel like, all of a sudden, matching the letters to the sounds becomes much easier because those sounds are much easier to discriminate between. You can use this strategy right now if your child is having trouble understanding the difference between these sounds. Again, a really common error to see kids make is when they spell a word like pet, they'll sometimes spell it with a P and sometimes spell it with a B, and that's because they're not hearing the difference between P and B. They're not hearing whether it's an unvoiced sound or a voiced sound. And just clearing up that confusion can make it that much easier for them to understand. Same thing with the vowels. They can understand when a vowel sound is a vowel sound because it's going to be open and it's going to be voiced. The more ways we can give kids to properly classify and understand sounds, the easier it is for them to hear and manipulate those sounds for reading and spelling. As always, if you know somebody who's struggling, please have them check out my website, yourdyslexiaexpert.com. That's also linked in the video description. I'm here to help. And if you have any questions, or if there's any other reading concepts that you want me to explain, even why does this word make the crazy pronunciation that it does, even though it's spelled like it is, please go ahead and post those questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I will make more videos so that you know how to help the person in your life who has dyslexia.